Dear students, yesterday we discussed about compounds of sodium. We completed two compounds, sodium carbonate as well as sodium bicarbonate. Today we are going to study another two compounds, sodium chloride as well as sodium hydroxide. And this is the common salt. So we call sodium chloride as a table salt or common salt. And the major source for sodium chloride is seawater. So approximately 2.7 to 2.9% sodium chloride is present in seawater. By ordinary evaporation method, we get sodium chloride from the seawater. In India, approximately 50 lakh tons of sodium chloride is prepared by evaporation method. So this is a simple way to extract sodium chloride from the seawater. Another one is extraction of seawater from brine. It's called a sodium chloride solution. Okay. So take the solution which contains many salts like sodium chloride, sodium sulfate, calcium sulfate, calcium chloride, magnesium chloride. So from the brine solution, we are going to extract sodium chloride. So during this process, we will get crude sodium chloride. Impure sodium chloride will be obtained by this crystallization process. The remaining substances will act as impurity. Sodium sulfate, calcium chloride and the magnesium chloride will act as the impurity and it can be removed. So from the brine solution, we will get sodium chloride as an impure form and it can be purified. So from the crude sodium chloride, we have to get pure sodium chloride. So the process will be a purification process. From the brine solution, by crystallization method, we get crude sodium chloride and it will be purified. So the impurities may be soluble as well as insoluble. Some impurities will be soluble, some impurities will be insoluble. So insoluble impurities can be separated by filtration process. So take a crude sodium chloride, with this add a small quantity of water. A minimum quantity of water will be added and we will do filtration process. Insoluble impurities will be separated. Then the crude sodium chloride will be crystallized by passing hydrogen chloride gas. So in the crude sodium chloride solution, we pass a hydrogen chloride gas. Sodium chloride will be crystallized and its solubility is less. So this will be settled as a precipitate and some soluble impurities will be there. It will be present in the solution. So soluble impurities are calcium chloride as well as magnesium chloride. So from the brine solution, by crystallization process, we get crude sodium chloride. It will be purified. With this, we add a minimum quantity of water. Insoluble impurities will be settled. So it can be removed by filtration process. To get sodium chloride crystal, again we pass hydrogen chloride gas. It will be crystallized, will be settled at the bottom due to low solubility. And soluble impurities will be present in the solution, will be in the filtrate and it can be removed. Then physical properties of sodium chloride. The melting point of sodium chloride is 1081 Kelvin. And we already studied the solubility. So in solution lesson, we already studied what is the solubility of sodium chloride. So when we maintain 273 Kelvin, the solubility of sodium chloride is 36 gram in 100 gram water. The solution will be a saturated solution. Exactly when we dissolve 36 gram sodium chloride in 100 gram of water, the solution will be a saturated solution. As we know, solubility is directly proportional to the temperature. When the temperature changes, solubility value will be changed, and this is the value at 273 Kelvin. For sodium chloride, when we change or when we increase the temperature, the change in the solubility will not be a larger value. Okay. So sodium chloride is obtained from seawater by evaporation method. From brine solution, we do purification, we get sodium chloride crystal. Its melting point and solubility values have given. And uses of sodium chloride, as we know, this is used in our day-to-day life. For cooking, in domestic usage, sodium chloride is utilized. Next, for preparing inorganic compounds like sodium hydroxide or sodium carbonate, we use sodium chloride. So this is the starting material for preparing some other inorganic compounds. So totally we have completed 3 compounds of sodium: sodium carbonate, sodium bicarbonate, and sodium chloride. The last one is sodium hydroxide, and this is the common laboratory reagent. In analytical chemistry, we often use sodium hydroxide. So this is basic or alkaline in nature. In qualitative and quantitative analysis, we use sodium hydroxide. And how can we prepare sodium hydroxide? So this is prepared by electrolysis process. So for electrolysis process, we need an electrolytic or electrochemical cell. The cell will consist of 3 components: cathode, anode, as well as electrolyte or electrolytic solution. The cathode will be mercury, and we take carbon as anode, and the electrolytic solution is brine solution, sodium chloride solution. So we construct a cell using the mercury, carbon as well as sodium chloride solution, and this cell is called Kastner-Kellner cell. Both are the scientists, right? So cell is constructed, there will be electrochemical reaction. So in a electrochemical or electrolytic cell, there will be redox reaction. At cathode, reduction will take place. At anode, oxidation will take place. So overall, this will be electrochemical redox reactions. So in the solution, we have Na plus and Cl minus ion. The electrolytic solution is sodium chloride. Since it is in solution form, there will be cation as well as anion. And as we know, oxidation will take place at anode and reduction will take place at the cathode. Based on this, we will get sodium hydroxide. To take chloride anion. The chloride anion will undergo oxidation process. So this liberates electron. Loss of electron is an oxidation process. The electron will be received by sodium cation, and it becomes neutral sodium. So this is called electrochemical redox reaction. Oxidation takes place at anode, reduction takes place at cathode. Chloride ion loses an electron. The electron is received by Na plus ion. Loss of electron, oxidation, gain of electron, reduction. The chlorine gas is liberated at anode. On carbon electrode, chlorine gas is liberated, but sodium metal is settled on cathode, which is acting as cathode, mercury. So because of this electrochemical redox reaction, sodium is settled on mercury. So this will be an alloy. cathode is mercury, sodium is settled on mercury, so this will be sodium amalgam. This is an alloy. Okay, sodium amalgam next combines with water, it produces sodium hydroxide. So we have an alloy, sodium amalgam, which combines with water, it produces sodium hydroxide with the liberation of mercury and hydrogen. So this is the way to prepare sodium hydroxide from sodium chloride solution by electrolysis process. Next, what about the physical properties of sodium hydroxide? The nature of sodium hydroxide is translucent. In 10th you studied transparent, translucent and opaque. When you study true solution, colloidal solution and suspension, you hear these words. So transparent means it just allows the light to pass through it. Opaque, it won't allow the light pass through it. Translucent means partially it allows. So in laboratory we use sodium hydroxide pellets. If you are preparing a sodium hydroxide solution, the solution will not be a clear solution, right? So it is not translucent, sorry, it is not transparent or opaque, it is translucent in nature and it is deliquescent in nature because it absorbs moisture easily. So sodium hydroxide can be dissolved easily in water and the reaction will be an exothermic reaction. So sodium hydroxide is a strong alkali, so basic in nature. Then sodium hydroxide has melting point 591 Kelvin. Then sodium hydroxide solution is present on the surface, means it will combine with the carbon dioxide in the atmospheric air. So if sodium hydroxide present in surface, it combines with carbon dioxide in the atmospheric air, it forms a sodium carbonate. So this is the physical property of sodium hydroxide. Next, uses. So sodium hydroxide is a laboratory reagent in analytical field for qualitative as well as quantitative analysis. We use sodium hydroxide. Next, for the purification of bauxite ore, we use sodium hydroxide. Then in petroleum refining industry, we use sodium hydroxide. Then next, one more question, for mercerizing cotton fabrics. So for cotton, the final finishing treatment is called a mercerizing process. Okay. So because of this treatment, the cotton will gain the capacity of uptaking dye as well as its tear strength will be increased. So sodium hydroxide can be used in mercerizing cotton fabrics. Then for preparing many compounds like soap, paper, artificial silk as well as chemicals, we use a sodium hydroxide. So with this compounds of sodium ore, sodium carbonate, sodium bicarbonate, sodium chloride and sodium hydroxide, all these we have completed. The next topic is biological importance of sodium and potassium. So before studying the biological importance, we would like to know the elements, what are the elements present in the human body with their percentage. If you take a man with 70 kilogram weight, he contains 90 gram sodium. The human body contains 90 gram sodium, 170 gram potassium, 5 gram iron, 0.06 gram copper. So this is the abundance of metals in human body. What about the biological importance of sodium as well as potassium? So they are mainly used for the maintenance of ion balance nerve impulse conduction. That means for the transmission of nerve signals, sodium and potassium ions are playing a major role. So this is a major application. Okay. For transmitting the nerve signals, sodium and potassium ions are very essential. So when you take sodium ion, this is present in blood plasma as well as interstitial fluids. And this fluid is surrounding the cells. This we already studied in biology. So Na plus is mainly used for transmitting the nerve signals, and this regulates the flow of water across the cell membranes. Then compounds like sugars, amino acids can be transported into the cells by Na plus. So these are the role of Na plus in biological reactions. This is present in the blood plasma as well as interstitial fluids. It just transmits the nerve signals. Na plus regulates the flow of water across the cell membranes. Then it just transports sugar as well as amino acids into the cells. Next, potassium. So the potassium ion is present in the cells. So if you take a cell fluids, more quantity of potassium plus present. Just now we studied 170 gram of potassium present in human body. So the abundance of K plus ion in the human body will be more, so that it activates many enzymes. Its role is it activates enzyme. Then there is a process called oxidation of glucose. So glucose will be oxidized into ATP. So during this biological reaction, K plus is participating, right? So adenosine triphosphate is energy carrying molecule which provides energy instantly. So glucose will be oxidized into ATP. During this process, potassium ion is involved. Then chemical behavior will be similar. Sodium and potassium will have similar chemical property due to same outermost configuration. Sodium has 3s1 outermost configuration, potassium 4s1. Due to that, chemical property will be same, but biological importance will be different. Okay, so potassium as well as sodium chemically similar, but at the same time biologically they are differing. First point, penetrating ability in cell membranes. How sodium as well as potassium is penetrating into the cells. It means passing into the cell. So penetrating ability in the cell membranes will be different. Then transport mechanisms of sodium ion and potassium ion will be different. Then efficiency of activating the enzymes will be different for sodium as well as potassium. So even though chemical is similar, biological actions will be different. So these are all the points which indicates biological importance of sodium as well as potassium. With this, we complete the alkali metals. Okay. So the lesson number 5 deals with alkali and alkaline earth metals. So 50% we have completed. Alkali metals, their general characteristics, preparation properties and uses of alkali metals and their compounds we have completed. Next, we move into the alkaline earth metals. So they are grouped to elements. First group elements are called alkali metals. Second group elements are called alkaline earth metals. We know the members of group number 2: beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, and radium. So these 6 elements are present in group number 2. Except beryllium, the remaining 5 elements are called alkaline earth metals. Okay. When we take these elements, their oxides and hydroxides are alkaline in nature, basic in nature, so that we call them as what? Alkaline. Magnesium hydroxide, magnesium oxide are the same way, calcium hydroxide and calcium oxide. So their oxides and hydroxides are alkaline in nature. Then why we have to use the word earth? The ores of these metals will be present in the earth crust. So they are called alkaline earth metals. General characteristics of alkaline earth metals. First, what is the physical state, ore, and the abundance of alkaline earth metals? So in group number 2, beryllium as well as radium are having very low abundance, approximately 10% only. Out of 100%, only 10% beryllium and radium present, and this is the rarest of all because this is a radioactive element. So this is obtained in the radioactive disintegration of other elements like uranium. So abundance of beryllium and radium will be very less. Take the next element, magnesium. So this is the most abundant element. So 8th most abundant element is magnesium, and its ore carnallite. As we studied already, alkali metals and alkaline earth metals are highly reactive. So it won't be present in free state or native state. Always it will be in the combined state. All the alkaline and alkaline earth metals are present in the form of compounds. From that we have to extract. So carnallite, magnesite, then dolomite. So these are all the ores of magnesium. From that we have to extract. Then calcium. Calcium is the 5th most abundant element in the earth crust. Its ore, we can obtain this from chalk or limestone, both are calcium carbonate. Then gypsum. So from these we can extract calcium. So the extraction will be generally considered as extraction of alkaline earth metals from the rocks as well as minerals. Then ore of strontium, it's called a celestite and strontianite. These are the ores of strontium. Barium has less abundance. Its ore is barite. Then, as I told already, radium has a radioactivity, and this will be obtained from the radioactive disintegration of uranium. So when the heavier uranium is disintegrated, it will produce lighter elements like radium. This is the abundance and ores of alkaline earth metals. Next, electronic configuration. The general electronic configuration is NS2. If we take beryllium, atomic number 4, 1s2, 2s2. Magnesium, atomic number 12, 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2. For calcium, 4s2, like that. The outermost configuration will be S2. 2 electrons will be present in the s orbital. So general outermost configuration of alkaline earth metal is NS2. Next, variation of periodic properties. You take atomic and ionic radius. When you take a period, left to right size decreases. So comparing the alkali metal group 1 elements, group 2 will have lesser atomic size. Left to right, atomic size decreases because electrons are added in the same cell. So attraction between the proton and electron will be more. So as we discussed in periodic classification lesson, comparing alkali metals, alkaline earth metals will have lesser atomic radius as well as ionic radius. But top to bottom, as usual, ionic radius will increase. Comparing beryllium, magnesium will have more radius. Comparing magnesium, calcium will have larger atomic size because electrons are added in the next cell. Beryllium has just 2 cells, magnesium has 3 cells, calcium has 4 cells. So number of cells are increased. Electrons are added in the inner cells. Size increases from top to bottom. Then what is the common oxidation state? NS2, right? Electronic configuration NS2, that means oxidation state can be easily calculated as +2. So this is common oxidation state of alkaline earth metal. So if you take group 1 elements, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium, they are having the tendency of losing 1 electron to become like noble gas. If you take alkaline earth metals, it has 2 electrons in the outermost orbital. So if it loses 2 electrons, it also becomes like noble gases. So the tendency of alkaline earth metal is to lose 2 electrons. So they are electropositive in nature. The common oxidation state is +2. What about next periodic property? Ionization energy. So left to right, ionization energy increases because size decreases, right? So atomic size decreases, that means ionization energy will be increased. Comparing alkali metal, alkaline earth metal will have more ionization energy. We have to remind it. Comparing lithium, beryllium has more ionization energy. Comparing sodium, magnesium has more ionization energy because size decreases. But top to bottom, as usual, ionization energy decreases. So size increases from top to bottom. Comparing beryllium, magnesium has larger atomic size. So easily we can remove the electron. So as we discussed in periodic classification lesson, top to bottom, atomic size increases, screening effect increases, attraction between the proton and electron will be less, so we can easily remove the electron. Ionization potential decreases from top to bottom. Here you have to note an important one marker. First ionization energy. Okay. First ionization energy of alkaline earth metal will be greater than first ionization energy of alkali metal. To take group number 2, alkaline earth metals, due to smaller size, ionization potential of group 2 elements will be more than the group 1 elements. We are dealing with the first ionization energy. To take lithium, atomic number 3, 1s2, 2s1. Beryllium, 1s2, 2s2. Comparing the alkali metal, we need more energy to remove the electron from beryllium because size decreases for beryllium. So first ionization energy of group 2 will be more than the first ionization energy of group 1. But the trend will be different for second ionization energy. for first ionization energy, the value will be more for second group metals than the first group metals. If you take second ionization energy, first group elements will have more value, because when you remove the first electron, lithium will become lithium cation. Okay. First electron is removed, the energy required to remove the first electron is called the first ionization energy. Beryllium will become beryllium plus. Now observe the electronic configuration of lithium cation and beryllium cation. When the first electron is removed, the electronic configuration of lithium plus ion is just 1s2. Okay, so this electron is removed. The lithium cation attained the electronic configuration of noble gas helium, so this will be stable. When an electron is removed from beryllium, this will become 1s2, 2s1. Now this is not the electronic configuration of noble gas. First electron is removed, lithium attains the electronic configuration of noble gas, so this is stable. By removing the first electron, beryllium is not stabilized, still it has 3 electrons. Okay. Because of lesser size, beryllium has more ionization energy. Now I am going to remove one more electron, so it's called a second ionization energy. Energy required to remove second electron from the cation. After the formation of lithium cation, I am going to remove one more electron. So this will become 1s1 and it becomes lithium 2 plus. And one more electron will be removed from beryllium cation. This becomes 1s2, it becomes beryllium 2 plus. So second ionization energy of group 1 metal will always be more than the group 2, because already it reaches electronic configuration of noble gas, stable. From the stable electronic configuration, we are going to remove one more electron, means we need more energy. Okay. So first ionization energy will be more for alkaline earth metal, but second ionization energy will be more for alkali metal, group 1. We have to remind this 1 mark. It is very difficult to remove an electron from the electronic configuration of noble gas. Next, hydration enthalpy. Heat changes during dissolution process. When the compound of alkaline earth metal is dissolved in water, what about energy changes? Based on that, we can find the solubility, okay, whether this is soluble or not, based on the hydration enthalpy value. So comparing alkali metals, alkaline earth metals will have more hydration enthalpy. Okay. Hydration enthalpy value more for alkaline earth metal. Then as usual, top to bottom hydration enthalpy decreases. From beryllium to barium, hydration enthalpy decreases due to increase of size. So comparing alkali metals, alkaline earth metals will have more hydration enthalpy. So that 2 examples are given in our book. Magnesium chloride hexahydrate, calcium chloride hexahydrate. So due to more hydration enthalpy of alkaline earth metals, the compounds of alkaline earth metals will easily dissolve in water. So they are forming hydrates. Sodium chloride, potassium chloride will not exist as a hydrate, but calcium chloride and magnesium chloride will exist as hydrates. Next one, electronegativity. So this is the another periodic property. This is like ionization potential. The trend will be like ionization potential. Left to right increases, top to bottom decreases. Comparing alkali metals, alkaline earth metal will have more electronegativity. Top to bottom electronegativity decreases. Next, flame test. So we can take a compound of alkaline earth metal. Any one compound will be added with concentrated hydrochloric acid, and this can be introduced into flame using a platinum wire. So in this flame test, different colored flames can be observed. Based on the color, we can identify what alkaline earth metal is present in the compound. If you take calcium based compound, it produces brick red color flame. If the compound is strontium based, it produces crimson red flame. And when you take barium based compound like barium chloride, apple green color flame will be observed. So we already studied why the compounds of metal exhibiting different colored flame in the previous classes. So as we studied for alkali metal, the same is repeated for alkaline earth metal also, right? So when you take so 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2. This is the electronic configuration of magnesium. So when the energy is low, we call the atom is in ground state. Okay. When energy increases, the state is mentioned as excited state. Okay. So we heat the compound of alkaline earth metal. Because of heating, energy is supplied to the compound. So the electron gets activated. They are moving into the higher energy level. So when the energy is low, we call it as ground state. When we heat the compound, due to absorption of heat, the electrons are jumped into higher energy level, and the higher energy level will have a higher energy. So electrons cannot be present in the higher energy level for a prolonged time. So again they are jumping into the ground state, thereby they are emitting the radiation. Okay. When we heat compound of alkaline earth metal, electrons in the lower energy level called ground state is jumped into the higher energy level, excited state. In the excited state, energy is more, so electrons cannot be present for a longer period in the excited state. So electrons in the excited state will again jump into the lower energy level by emitting the radiation in the visible region, so that we get different colored flames like a crimson red, apple green, brick red, and so on. So with this general characteristics of alkaline earth metals over, tomorrow we will discuss about physical and chemical properties of alkaline earth metals. Thank you.